You know that very specific kind of dread you get?
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's usually right around like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You are completely in the flow. You have this massive deadline looming, and suddenly,
The cursor starts to lag.
yes, it just drags just a tiny bit. It feels like you're trying to drag your mouse through molasses.
Right.
Or even worse, you go to save that final draft, the one you've been agonizing over for 3 hours,
Yeah.
and you get that little pop-up message that just says, disk full.
Which is maddening because you know for a fact you just deleted like 20 gigabytes of old video files last week.
Exactly. I mean, it is the universal hum of the modern age. We have this technology that is supposed to be, a bicycle for the mind.
But it ends up feeling like a stick in the spokes.
It totally does.
Yeah.
And my default reaction, and look, I think I speak for a lot of people listening to this right now, is just panic clicking.
Oh, the frantic clicking.
I open the task manager. I close it immediately because I don't know what I'm looking at. I stare at the Wi-Fi icon. I
Yeah.
go reboot the router, even though, the TV in the living room is streaming perfectly fine.
Right, right.
It just feels like I'm guessing. I'm just poking the machine with a stick, hoping it wakes up.
Well, it feels like guessing because largely it is. I mean, you are interacting with the very surface layer of the software,
Yeah.
and you're just hoping that something shifts in the deep machinery underneath.
But today, for our deep dive, we're going to stop guessing.
Yes, we are.
We are digging into a really fascinating article from How to Geek. It was published recently on February 21, 2026, by a veteran technology journalist named Rich Heim.
And the title is 4 PowerShell Commands That Fix Common Windows Problems Fast.
Right. And I have to be completely honest with you right off the bat here. When I saw the word PowerShell in the source material, I flinched.
You and millions of others, that is a very common reaction.
It's intimidating. I mean, the blue screen of death is scary enough, but that dark blue screen of text that is PowerShell.
Yeah, it feels like it belongs to the IT guy in the basement server room, not us.
Exactly. It feels incredibly heavy. It feels like if I type the wrong word, I'm going to, I don't know, accidentally launch a missile or delete the entire internet.
But as we see in this article, that's not really what this is about, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most important misconception we need to dismantle for you right now.
Absolutely. Hein isn't writing this for the server room engineer.
Right.
He's writing this for the person who manages a fleet of home PCs for his family in Daytona Beach. He has been covering tech for 2 decades. His motivation isn't to show off technical vanity, it's efficiency.
He just wants to stop bouncing between endless menus.
Precisely. He's writing for anyone who is just tired of the friction. He calls using PowerShell leverage.
Leverage. I really like that word. It implies, doing a lot more work with a lot less effort.
Think about it this way. Modern operating systems, Windows 10 and 11, they are beautiful in many ways, but they are a bit of a Frankenstein's monster underneath.
Oh, absolutely.
You have this sleek, modern settings panel, but if you click the wrong link or you need a very specific advanced setting, you are suddenly thrown back into a control panel window.
The jarring time travel of Windows. You click Properties, and suddenly the font changes, the icons get all pixelated, and you feel like you're back in 1998.
It's totally disjointed. And that friction clicking through 5 different layers of menus just to find a single, simple toggle switch is exactly what Hein wants to help you eliminate.
By just bypassing the visual clutter completely.
Right. By using PowerShell, you are speaking directly to the operating system. You are cutting out the middleman.
So the mission today isn't to turn you into a coder. We aren't learning how to write software or scripts.
No, not at all. The mission is to give you a scalpel so you don't have to keep using a blunt instrument.
I love that.
We're going to walk through 4 specific areas where the official visual way is slow, and the PowerShell way is basically instant.
We're talking storage, bloatware, network issues, and that vague feeling that your PC is just running slow.
And we are also going to get into the community reaction to this piece, because the comment section raised some really intense philosophical debates about how we actually use our computers.
Oh yeah, the OS wars definitely showed up. They always do.
Always. But let's start with that first headache, the one Hein calls the slow burn storage.
Storage is so insidious because it's totally invisible. You really don't notice it at all until it's critical.
Until the disk is full.
Right. Now, normally when I ran out of space, I do what I call the official walk of shame.
Which look like what?
Okay, so I go down to the Start button. I click Settings. Then I find System. Then I click Storage. And then I wait for that little bar to calculate.
And while you wait, You just sit there questioning your life choices.
Exactly. And then finally, I click Apps and Features, or maybe Other. And honestly, half the time it just gives me something incredibly vague. Like, it will say, System Files, 40 gigabytes.
Which is entirely unhelpful.
It is. Because I'm sitting there thinking, can I delete that? Is that important? Is that my thesis paper? Or is it just a temporary file from an update last year?
And that right there is the fundamental limitation of the graphical user interface, or GUI. It is inherently designed to be safe, so it hides all the messy details from you.
It just puts everything into broad buckets.
Exactly. But Hines suggests a PowerShell alternative that cuts right through that categorization. Instead of waiting for Windows to sort everything into buckets, you run a simple command that essentially says, scan the C drive, find the top 10 largest folders, and list them right now by size.
So it doesn't give you categories at all. It gives you actual file pathways and locations.
That is the crucial distinction. System files is a category. You can't do anything with a category. But if the PowerShell list tells you that a specific folder in your app data temp directory is holding 50 gigabytes, that is a location.
You know exactly where to go.
Right.
That's like the difference between someone telling you your house is heavy versus, hey, there's a grand piano in the attic.
That is a perfect analogy. And the other major factor here is the speed.
Because it's skipping the visual math.
Right. When you open Windows Explorer and you hover over a folder to see how big it is, Windows is calculating that in real time. If there are a million tiny files in there, it takes forever.
Yeah, the little green bar that slowly creeps across the top of the window.
Exactly. But PowerShell just queries the master file table directly. It is nearly instant. You get a clean, ranked list of the worst offenders in seconds.
Okay, so it eliminates the trial and error. You stop hunting and pecking, and you just get the raw data.
Yes.
So we've identified the junk in the attic. Let's move to the second theme. This is about the junk we didn't even put there in the first place. App management.
Or as I like to call it, the why is there a promotional version of a video editor I never installed sitting on my work laptop problem.
Yes. Why is Candy Crush on my enterprise machine?
Hmm.
Hein uses a really great metaphor here. He compares a Windows installation to a garage.
The garage analogy is perfect.
Right. Over time, you store your own boxes in there. But also, sometimes the builder who built the garage just left some random boxes.
And sometimes your neighbor snuck in at night and left a box in the corner.
And Windows is notorious for this kind of neighbor behavior. They call them provisioned apps.
Right. These aren't just the standard programs you intentionally went out and installed, like Microsoft Word or Google Chrome. These are AppEx packages.
AppX. Okay, what exactly makes those different from a normal program? Why can't I just go to the old control panel, right-click, and hit uninstall?
So this gets a little bit technical, but it's really important to understand. A standard program, like a traditional .exe file, mostly just installs its files into a specific folder on your drive.
Okay.
But an AppEx package is a modern universal app. It is sandboxed.
Meaning it's isolated.
Exactly. It's isolated from the rest of the core system for security reasons. But because it is sandboxed and deeply integrated into the modern OS, it is very often completely hidden from that standard add or remove programs list you're used to using.
So to the old tools, these apps are effectively invisible.
They are buried. So Hines suggests using a PowerShell command specifically, get appx package, to generate a simple, sortable, text-based list of literally everything installed on the machine.
It's like finally turning on the incredibly bright floodlights in the garage and seeing every single box, even the ones pushed way back into the dark corner.
Exactly.
Okay, but I remember reading a pretty serious warning from the author in this specific section. This is where we get into that scalpel versus broom territory, right?
Yes, and we need to highlight this crucial caveat. When you suddenly have a master list of everything and you have a command that can delete anything, the absolute biggest temptation is to just grab a broom and sweep it all out.
You see a name you don't recognize and think, I don't know what this is, delete it. I want a clean, minimalist machine.
Do not do that.
Why not?
Because in the world of modern AppEx packages, some of those boxes in the garage are structural, load-bearing pillars. For example, did you know that the Start menu itself in Windows 10 and 11 is technically an app?
Wait, really? The button I click to launch my apps is an app?
It is. The search bar is an app. The built-in calculator is an app. Even the Shell Experience Host, which basically handles the entire graphical user interface, is packaged as an app.
Oh, wow.
So if you blindly run a command to remove all AppEx packages, You might reboot and find yourself staring at a completely black screen. You literally can't click anything because you deleted the software that handles clicking.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Treat it like a scalpel.
Right. The advice isn't to go crazy, it's to use the list to identify things.
Yes. Google the names you don't immediately know. If you see something called Microsoft Zune Video and you know you don't watch videos on that machine, fine, run the remove command.
But if you see Shell Experience Host, you step slowly away from the keyboard.
It is all about precision.
Okay, so we've cleared the storage, we've pruned the bloatware apps very carefully. Now let's move to the third theme. This is arguably the most frustrating problem of all. The network going sideways.
Ah, yes, the ghost in the machine.
This happens to me all the time. My phone works fine on the Wi-Fi. The TV is streaming in 4K. But my laptop suddenly acts like the internet has ceased to exist. I get that little globe icon with the cross through it.
And pages just half load or your downloads just stall completely.
Exactly. And I always try clicking the built-in Windows troubleshooter, but let's be real. Does that ever actually fix anything?
Statistically speaking, maybe sometimes. But usually it just runs for 2 minutes, says DNS server not responding, and basically shrugs at you.
It tells you what is wrong, but it doesn't give you a fix.
Right. So for this, Hines suggests doing a network reset via PowerShell.
But I want to really understand what we are actually resetting here. Is this just the digital equivalent of turning the Wi-Fi toggle off and on again? Because I can just do that with a button on my keyboard.
No, it's much, much deeper than that. This command wipes the slate clean for how your entire computer talks to the network. Specifically, it does 3 things. It clears the DNS cache, it resets the WinSock catalog, and it rebuilds the TCP/IP stack.
Okay, those are 3 very fancy, very intimidating terms. I feel like I'm hacking the mainframe in a movie right now. Can we break those down? What on earth is a WinSock?
Okay, let's break it down. Think of the DNS cache as your computer's personal address book.
Well,
You type google.com into your browser, and the address book says, okay, that name lives at this specific IP address. But sometimes that address book gets smudged, or the addresses change out in the real world, and your computer is stubbornly trying to drive to an old, abandoned location.
just looking for a house that isn't there anymore.
Exactly. So clearing the DNS cache basically burns the old address book, forcing your computer to look up the fresh, correct addresses from scratch.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Address book burned. What about the WinSock?
WinSock is essentially the translator. It stands right between your web browser like Chrome or Edge and the physical network card inside your laptop.
It translates the software request into a hardware action.
Exactly. It handles all the input and output requests. But sometimes that translator gets confused. Or it gets corrupted by a third-party firewall, or maybe an antivirus program you uninstalled 3 years ago that left some bad code behind.
So resetting the WinSock is like firing the confused translator and hiring a brand new one.
Spot on.
And the third piece, the TCP/IP stack.
That is the ultimate rulebook. It's the core set of protocols that dictate exactly how your data gets chopped up into tiny packets and sent across the wire.
Okay.
Rebuilding the stack is like rereading that rulebook from page 1 to make absolutely sure your system isn't playing by made-up or corrupted rules.
That is incredibly helpful context. Thank you. So when I run this network reset command, I'm basically giving the network brain of my computer a complete lobotomy and letting it regrow fresh.
A benevolent lobotomy, yes. It resets everything to the pure factory default state. But I have to say, this is where the community feedback on the article was really valuable.
Oh, in the comments.
Yes. There was a commenter named Rob who pointed out a really fascinating technical nuance about this specific fix.
I saw that. Rob pointed out that even though we are typing this into the PowerShell window, we aren't actually using PowerShell commands, are we?
Right. Hein lists the commands in the piece, but Rob correctly noted that they all start with the word netsh, which stands for network shell.
And what is that?
It's an older command line utility. It has literally been around since Windows 2000.
Wait, really? So we are opening up this sleek, modern PowerShell interface just to run a command from the Windows XP era.
Exactly. It just goes to show you that Windows is really just built on layers and layers of history. It's software archaeology at this point.
Speaking of history, there was another commenter, Rigo, who pushed back hard on this whole idea.
He argued that using the command line for a network reset is just stupid because there's literally a network reset button you can click in the settings menu.
And man, did that ignite a debate.
Yeah.
Because another user, Richard, and even the author himself, jumped in to counter that immediately.
Yes, because while the button does technically exist in the graphical interface, do you actually know where it is?
Well, in Windows 10, it was fairly easy to find. But in Windows 11, honestly, I think they moved it.
They absolutely moved it. In Windows 11, it's hidden under Network and Internet. Then you have to click Advanced Network Settings, then More Settings, and finally you find Network Reset.
They just keep moving the cheese.
But the text command, the net reset command, that has not changed its syntax in 20 years.
And that brings us right back to the idea of leverage. If I take the 5 minutes to memorize that command or just save it in a text file, I am completely immune to whatever Microsoft's design team decides to do next year.
Precisely. You are investing your time in knowledge that does not expire. If you learn where a visual button is, that knowledge has a shelf life of maybe 18 months before an update scrambles the menus again. If you learn the underlying command, you are set for a decade.
I love that. Knowledge that doesn't expire. Now, there was also a quick tip from another user named CL regarding these network issues that I want to mention.
Right. CL pointed out that sometimes doing a full stack reset is just overkill.
Yeah, they suggested an alternative command. Get net adapter, pipe, restart net adapter.
And that one is a pure PowerShell command. It is essentially the digital equivalent of reaching around the back of the computer, physically unplugging the Ethernet cable, waiting a second and plugging it back in.
But you do it entirely in software.
Right. It's so much faster than rebooting the whole machine if your connection just temporarily stalls out.
See, that is exactly the kind of shortcut we're looking for. I don't want to restart everything. I just want to virtually slap the network card and tell it to wake up.
Which leads us perfectly into the fourth theme from the article. The most vague, ambiguous complaint in all of tech support.
Diagnosing the slow PC.
It is entirely useless as a diagnostic phrase. It feels slow.
It's a vibe. It's not a metric. You can't fix a vibe. Is it the CPU? Is it the memory? Background apps.
And usually the reflex to diagnose that vibe is to hit Control-Alt-Delete and open up the task manager.
Which is a nightmare. I end up playing this awful game of chase the process. I sort by CPU usage and try to see what's eating my resources, but the list just keeps resorting itself every single second.
Because it's live.
Yeah, I try to click the top item to close it, and right as I click, it jumps down 3 spots and I accidentally click something else entirely. It's like playing whack-a-mole.
Well, that's because Task Manager is an active live monitor. Ironically, it is actually consuming system resources just to show you what is consuming resources.
It's part of the problem.
Heinz PowerShell method offers a different approach. It asks the system for a snapshot. You run a command to list the top 10 processes by memory or CPU usage, and it just outputs a clean, static text list.
It doesn't move around.
It doesn't move.
So I can actually sit back, take a sip of coffee, and read what is happening without the data dancing away from my mouse.
And crucially, you can export it. You can pipe that data right into a text file, save it,
Right.
and then compare it to another snapshot tomorrow.
You really can't easily do that with the Task Manager interface.
No. It takes that vague feeling of my computer is dragging and turns it into hard, actionable data. It tells you definitively. Google Chrome is currently using 4 gigabytes of memory.
Okay, so those are our 4 pillars of leverage. Storage, bloatware, network, and performance.
Big 4.
But I want to zoom out a bit now, because whenever you publish an article about fixing Windows problems, you automatically summon a very specific group of people in the comments section.
You summon the Linux crowd.
It is inevitable. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the internet absolutely abhors a Windows troubleshooting guide without a Linux user commenting on it.
We saw it with users like Jokis666 and Dave chiming in.
Yes, and their core argument was basically, why are you jumping through all these ridiculous command line hoops just to fix Windows? Just delete Windows entirely and install Linux.
And to be completely fair, Dave made a really compelling point about e-waste and planned obsolescence.
He did. He mentioned that he had these perfectly good functional computers sitting around, but Microsoft basically declared them unworthy because they didn't meet the strict hardware requirements for Windows 11.
Right, the new requirements for specific TPM security chips and newer processor generations.
Microsoft is effectively telling people this computer is trash now, even though the actual hardware is totally fine.
So Dave was faced with the choice. He could throw perfectly good hardware into an actual landfill, contributing to the e-waste problem, or he could wipe the drive and install Linux.
And he went with Linux.
He did. And he noted that on Linux, the mystery of disappearing storage is just gone. The system is inherently transparent. He has total granular control over his machine again, and it runs great.
And honestly, strictly speaking from a technical standpoint, he's right. Linux does offer that incredible transparency. But then he admitted the catch. the reality check.
The tax software trap.
Yes, he admitted, look, I still have to keep one Windows machine running specifically for my tax software and my professional accounting tools.
And this perfectly illustrates the tension between idealism and pragmatism.
How so?
Well, we all want the absolute control that an open system like Linux offers. The ability to see every file, every running process with no hidden Apex packages or buried settings
You
menus.
want the pure experience.
But we live and work in a world where the software we actually rely on to do our jobs, things like Adobe Creative Cloud, advanced Excel macros, specialized business tools, is overwhelmingly built for the messy, mainstream operating systems.
So we are just stuck managing the mess. We can be tech idealists 364 days a year, but on tax day, we need Windows.
Exactly. You can't escape it entirely.
But there was another critique in the comments from a user named Kim that I thought was really insightful. Kim wasn't just saying switch to Linux. Kim was specifically critiquing the actual language and syntax of PowerShell itself.
Yes, Kim pointed out that PowerShell commands are incredibly verbose. They are very long and wordy.
Right. In Linux, if you want to simply list the files in a folder, you just type L's, 2 letters, done.
But in PowerShell, the proper official command to do the exact same thing is get child item.
Get child item. It sounds like I'm at a school asking a teacher to go fetch my kid from recess.
It really does. And if you want to remove one of those apps we talked about, the command is remove apps package.
It has this very rigid verb-noun structure. Kim found it super clunky and awkward compared to the elegant brevity of Linux.
It definitely requires more keystrokes. It feels a bit like writing a formal letter instead of sending a quick text message.
But isn't there a deliberate reason for that clunkiness?
There absolutely is. It's designed entirely around readability and safety.
Okay, unpack that. How is typing more words safer?
Think about Linux. If you see a script online that just says rm-rf/, which is the notorious command to force delete literally everything on a Linux drive, you might have no idea what those random letters mean until you hit enter and your entire hard drive is erased.
It's cryptic. It's a secret code.
Exactly. But if you see a PowerShell script that says remove item dash recurse dash force, you have a much, much better chance of actually understanding the inherent danger before you execute it.
Remove item is pretty hard to misinterpret.
Right. It's explicitly clear for the human reading it, even if it requires a little more typing for the fingers. It prioritizes comprehension over brevity.
And I think that brings us perfectly back to the core philosophy of Hein's entire article. Whether you prefer the short, cryptic commands of Linux or the long, explicit, verbose commands of PowerShell, the ultimate goal is exactly the same.
It is all about user agency.
User agency.
Yeah.
That is the key takeaway here. So let's unpack that for a second. What does that actually mean for the person listening to us right now?
Well, think about how most of us interact with computers today. We use them passively. We are basically passengers.
You just sit in the car while the operating system drives itself.
Exactly. And when it slows down, we just complain. When it stops working, we panic. We sit around waiting for an automatic update to hopefully fix it, or we just give up and rely on the Genius Bar or our company's IT department to sort it out.
Just accept that the computer is a magic black box that we aren't qualified or allowed to touch.
Right. But when you bypass the GUI, when you open up that intimidating blue PowerShell window and you type a manual command to check your storage or reset your network stack, you are moving from the passenger seat into the driver's seat.
Even if it's just for 1 minute.
You are looking under the hood.
Yeah.
You are refusing to simply accept the opacity of the machine. You are saying, no, I want to know exactly why you are slow today.
And I think that is exactly why these types of deep dive articles resonate so much with people.
It's empowering.
It's not just about saving 5 gigabytes of temporary file space. It's about not feeling helpless in front of the screens we use every single day.
It is deeply psychological. It genuinely feels good to type a command, hit enter, and see the computer obey instantly without any spinning wheels or loading bars.
It makes you feel like you actually own the hardware you paid for.
It completely cuts the friction. And look, in a world of constant information overload and digital friction, obtaining direct control is a very powerful feeling.
So for the listener who is maybe still a little bit nervous to try this, they've heard us talking for 15 minutes about resetting TCP/IP stacks and provisioned AppPix packages and master file tables. What is the absolute first, safest baby step they should take?
My advice, don't try to fix everything at once. Please do not go home and try to script your entire morning startup routine in PowerShell today.
Start small.
Very small. Pick just one thing. The next time you find yourself wondering, man, what is taking up all the space on my laptop? Man, don't open the settings menu. Don't do the walk of shame.
Resist the urge to click.
Right. Look up that one specific command we talked about, get child item, sorted by length, and just try it. You don't even have to type it. Just copy and paste it directly from the article.
See what happens. Treat it like a magic spell. You don't necessarily have to know exactly how the potion is mixed. You just need to know the incantation.
And keep a little text file note on your desktop with the commands that work for you. Because remember what we discussed. Microsoft will inevitably redesign and move the visual storage menu in Windows 12. They will bury the network reset button even deeper in Windows 13.
But the text command is eternal. It will probably still work exactly the same way when we are all doing our taxes on holographic headsets in 20 years.
It truly is the bedrock of the system.
Before we wrap up today, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. Something that struck me while we were discussing the whole scalpel versus broom concept with the menus.
Okay, what is it?
We spend so much collective time and energy demanding user-friendly interfaces from tech companies. We want everything to be seamless, intuitive, simple, highly visual.
That is the holy grail of modern UI design. Make it frictionless for the consumer.
But I wonder if we have reached a point of diminishing returns. Because if making a system friendly means completely hiding the actual controls and the data from the user, are we actually making it harder to use in the long run?
That is the ultimate paradox of modern computing. We have simplified the visual interface to the point where we have completely obscured the underlying function.
Right. By trying to endlessly protect the user from the complexity of the machine, we have essentially made it impossible for the user to solve complex problems on their own.
It strongly suggests that maybe true ease of use actually requires a little bit of learning and effort on our part.
Maybe we need to stop demanding the machine do all the work and just meet the machine halfway.
I think that's a very fair deal.
Well, that is all the time we have for this deep dive into the command line. We really hope you feel a little less afraid of the blue window today and a little more ready to take the wheel the next time your PC acts up. Thanks so much for listening.